Would you be super mad at me if I just surprised you with a dog next week?
No, because I just wouldn't keep it. I'm not like... I'd find a good home for it.
We'll cut that out.
I'd find a good home for it. I love dogs, but that would not be in its best interest.
That would make it poor for you.
No, that's true.
Yes, and that would make me poor. True. Yeah, so I love dogs. I want a dog. Some people who hear my opinions might think I don't, but I love dogs. I just think timing is important. Welcome, everybody, to another Passages TV podcast. Today, we wanted to talk to you guys about the fear of change or the fear of transition. This is a time in our lives where a lot of things change. We might be moving. We might be starting a new job. We might be, in college and picking up a new major. And that can be scary. I mean, some people handle change and transition better than others, but the three of us have recently or are currently going through a lot of change in our lives, and so we wanted to take this time to kind of talk through that, what we're going through, and how we're handling that, and kind of share that with you guys a little bit, and hopefully you get to know us just a little bit better through that. But I know for myself, my wife and I are looking into moving here pretty soon. We're having a kid here pretty soon.
Dave's going to be a dad.
I know. It's
That's
wild.
Weird.
And there's a lot that goes with that. I tell people I've experienced every single emotion on the spectrum all at once, especially like when you first find out. It's like, it's.
Are you still scared, or do you feel like you've...
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, of course. And there's a lot of things to be scared of.
Have you ever changed a diaper before?
I've not. No, I haven't.
I'm so excited for you to change
I haven't even really
diaper.
been around babies that much. Like, just because I live in like a college town, and like some of some of Ashley's family has babies, but I'm not changing their diapers. I don't have like.
You should maybe start.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't. No, I'm just gonna figure out. Experiment on my own son, I guess, with that. Learn that way, but no, there is. That is one of the 100 things. Like, there's so many things that just kind of like cycle through your mind, like all at the same time, all throughout the day.
And you've been married for how long?
2 years in June. So, we had, our time with just the two of us, which was incredible. And now we're excited to start a family.
Bringing chaos into it.
I know. And it's just like the timing of it, guys, like, could not be more insane because we were planning, like, we live in Lynchburg, Virginia right now. We both went to school there, worked there, absolutely love it, but it's just time. It's time to kind of move on, and we want to move out to San Diego. And so our plan was to move in July. Well, July 16th is the due date of our boy. So that obviously, like, just in one instant, like, oh gosh, one instant, everything is like, well, that's not happening. So now we got to decide. And we're actually still in the process of a lot of those decisions of like when we're going to move, what that's going to look like, how we're going to handle it. And so like, I'm quite literally in the middle of that whole process. And those are things that, are pretty intimidating to go through. I feel like all of that stuff, like the big obvious stuff, can kind of like overshadow a lot of the personal things that, me as an individual, as David Todd, is like thinks about and goes through. And I think, maybe as like a dad in the relationship, a lot of that stuff does get overshadowed and for good reason.
Like what kind of stuff are you referring to?
Like, so one of the biggest things, I've had friends at my church that I've been able to talk through this with because they've recently have kids. Like, it is just a whole other level of selflessness. Yeah. And that is expected, which is a good thing. Like, all these are Absolutely. Good things, but they are still things that you have to wrestle with. Like, the Bible talks a lot about like dying to yourself. Every single day as a Christian, and like I'm starting to get like a whole new understanding of what that is, because it's like I'm not the most important person. Marriage is like the first step in that for sure, Because like now you're responsible for another, like for your spouse, and that's a huge transition, and it's an amazing thing, and it's a huge blessing. But there is growth and maturity that needs.
It's hard.
Yeah,
you have to figure it out.
Yeah,
it's almost like God made the pregnancy time be 9 months to kind of let the husband
so you
prepare.
figure it
like
out.
that.
Yeah, it's like,
but it's already been 6 months. I'm like, what the heck? I was supposed to have more time than this. Yeah, so it sneaks up really quick.
Yeah.
Well, and you're not only changing, your routine and how you live to become a dad, like you're moving across the country, you're starting a new job, you're, switching up your friend group. So you're going to have to create whole new relationships and community in San Diego. You got to find a new place to live. Does that look like renting, buying a house? What does
You're
that
in my
look
mind
like?
right now.
Yeah.
That's exactly like.
So there's a lot more to what you're talking about and the change that you're going through than just being a dad. But being a dad is definitely the largest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's all part of it. And then I also have this like selfish nature that I'm wrestling with that like has become so much more apparent. Like, I like doing things that I enjoy. Like I like going and playing golf. Like I like hanging out. I like doing stuff like that. Like stuff for me, and that's good. Like I always want to keep an element of that because I think that keeps me sane. It gives me
definitely.
I like going to the gym in the morning and having that time. Like that is just my time to kind of get my mind right for the day.
Shout out Todd Durkin.
Exactly. I thought that.
Get your mind right.
He does have a Discover Your Calling episode.
Check it out on YouTube.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just like, okay, it's even less and less about me, which I'm excited for. And it's going to be the most fulfilling thing ever.
Right.
And I can't wait for that. But it's like, okay, this part of me is going to die, and that's okay. Like, there is a time for that.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to die. It's just become less.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you can still do all of those things, but you're not going to be able to either do it at the time that you want to or as much as you would like to.
And it might be temporary, as your son grows up and becomes more independent, you can get back into it.
But the thing is, like, the cool thing about it is, like, I want that to be the case, Like, I want my own desires to fall to the wayside a bit, like because I now have things in my life now that are more important.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, yes, it's hard because you're leaving those things, but it's like I'm much more excited to go to the things that are ahead, that I'm looking towards, to raising a son and raising a family.
It's a sacrifice, but it's a fulfilling sacrifice.
Exactly. Yes. But I feel like we skip over that part of it. Like that doesn't make it not hard. And I'm sure some people struggle with it.
Right. And then you have to be even more selfless about it because your wife's probably going through the same feelings, the same emotions. So you have to be there for her and talk her through it.
And so much worse because she's the one carrying the baby.
Hormones and everything else, and bodies changing and everything. So you got to be there and kind of even put your emotions of that to the side in order to come alongside Ashley and kind of help her through that.
And how many guys like go through that and don't like? I feel like a lot of guys don't think they're allowed to say anything.
Or no one really warns you. It's like
nobody talks about it.
Yeah, because it's all about the more important, like the more bigger things,
baby,
which is true. Like that is valid, but I feel like so many, like it could be so easy to just for that stuff to get looked over, and I think it's important to talk about because it is something that I think a lot of guys who are maybe heads of the household and trying to make good decisions for their family, have to think through.
Right. So how are you dealing with that? Because you have overwhelming change coming. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it you're happy to do, some of it you're like selfishly wanting to hold on to. What are you doing in order to like cope with that or make those changes?
A lot of it, like, we can't do things about until it's happened, until we've like followed through with the process. So like, okay, we know that God's calling us out of Lynchburg. We were supposed to leave a year earlier, but a job opportunity happened that would provide me with a lot of experience working at a church that I had a lot of respect for. So I wanted to do that before we moved, and we thought that would be a good idea. So we were supposed to move a year ago, and now we're just like, okay, we know what God wants us to do. We just need to do it. And I think that there is a huge aspect of faith in there because there is a lot of uncertainty. And over the next few months, we really hope to clear up some of those things. There's a lot of questions in the air right now, as with a lot of big decisions. But we hope that some of that stuff clears up, and then, a lot of it is just taking a step of faith. Like, we know that we're going to be okay, but also, like, we know that we are responsible for making the right decisions. Like, when we get out there, one of the biggest things is, like, I have friends because I grew up there, but it is a totally different, like, landscape than... I haven't lived there in 8 years, so there's going to be a lot of differences. So we have to be proactive about making friends and seeking that out.
Yeah. Well, even with your old friends, it's still like starting new because you're all at a different stage of life.
Totally. A lot of them are gone.
Yeah. So you're going through different things, and you kind of have to reconnect with each other.
I think a huge thing about change, too, is the control aspect. Like you mentioned, you guys were supposed to move to San Diego a year ago. You guys were now planning to move to San Diego in July this year, and that's completely changed. So, like, you have all these plans that you can make for yourself, but ultimately God has sometimes other plans, and that's where the faith comes in. But, like...
Sometimes it takes you a long time to understand God's plans.
And it's so cool to, like, sit here and talk about that, though, because you've been serving at Thomas Road Baptist Church, and that's been amazing for you, and the experience you've had there and the growth you've experienced there is, like, awesome. And who knows... what that's prepared you for when you do move to San Diego, and what, position and responsibilities you take up out there. But yeah, I always find that interesting. It's like, you can make all these plans for yourself, but you can only do so much to fulfill them.
Make plans. That's what I
Absolutely.
So many times in my life that stuff's happened.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot, even with Caleb going through law school. We had all of these plans. We mapped out where we wanted to go, what state we wanted to be in, what kind of law he was going to study, everything. And we had literally it all dialed out. And then God was like, haha, that's not what's happening. You're moving to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And where we knew nobody, had to start fresh, just kind of figure it out.
Yeah, fun fact about us three here, Passages TV, we're all living in different states currently, which makes things a little more challenging, but...
a little more fun, too.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what season of life you're in, Grace Ann.
We're in a season of life where there's constant change. We never know kind of what's going to happen, what we're doing, where we're going to live. Right now, our home base is technically Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but last summer we lived in Dallas, Texas for a summer. This summer we're living in Jacksonville, Florida for a summer, and then he's done with law school May of 2025, and we have no idea where we're going to end up.
So a lot of that is because of Caleb's school, right? He had an opportunity for work in Dallas last summer.
So last summer we worked in Dallas because he had an internship in Dallas for the summer, and then we moved back to Alabama for the school year. But we're not there for Christmas, so we're not there for a whole month in December because he doesn't need to be there, and I work from home, so we kind of just travel to be with our families, taking advantage of that time while we can, because we don't know if we're ever going to live by them again. And then, so we live in Tuscaloosa during the school year, and then this next summer we're living in Jacksonville, Florida, because he got another internship there, and then he's done in a year and a half, and we have no idea where we're going to end up. We started making plans, and then we remembered that we had all these plans kind of mapped out before law school of where we were going to go, what we were going to do, where we were going to live after. And God is like, I have a different plan for you. And we're so glad that the Lord had a different plan for us, because we've had an incredible time in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We've met some incredible people, some great relationships. We have a great church out there. But yeah, that is definitely a way to make God laugh, is by making plans, because he already has them laid out. You just got to be patient and make sure that you're listening and you're waiting for him.
So you've been in Alabama for how long now?
2 years. It was a year in August. So we've been there about a year and a half.
And you just bought a house?
Yeah, we just bought a house, which is a lot of change as well.
Which you've only been there for 24 hours?
Yes. So I've owned this house for a month now. And I have only been there, I counted it out, I've only been in the house for 18 hours. So I haven't even been in there a full 24 hours.
She's been in Japan longer than she's been in her house.
That's true. You went to Tokyo.
Yeah, I did go to Tokyo.
Japan.
That was cool. One of our family friends, she lives in Tokyo, and she called me on Sunday night. And she was like, hey, I got an extra ticket to the Taylor Swift concert in Tokyo. My sister-in-law was supposed to come with me, but she can't anymore. Do you want to come? And I was like, yeah, when else am I going to get the opportunity to go to Tokyo? So I booked a flight Sunday night, and I left Wednesday. I was there for a week. And then after that, I was supposed to go to San Diego for work for a week. So I went straight there. And then after that, I was supposed to be in Tennessee for work for a week. So I went straight to Tennessee. And then I went home. I was home for 3 days, packed up my whole house or my whole apartment, moved into it Monday, slept in it Monday night, and then I've been gone for 3 weeks again.
So crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Some
you do
of it
it
was fun travel. We went and visited Caleb's brother Seth and his wife Lauren because they're expecting a baby. And so we wanted to see their house and where they live before their little boy comes. And then Caleb has spring break. So we spent that week visiting his grandparents in Florida and just spending some good quality time with them. And now I'm here in Utah. So
So crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to find somewhere for you to go next week because you just have to go somewhere.
Well, I was supposed to go to Lynchburg, Virginia to visit my siblings, and I had to call my mom, and I was like, I can't go.
Yeah.
I want to be home. But it's been a crazy season of life for sure. But with change, so we just bought a house. We lived in an awful apartment. We couldn't be in some rooms together because it wasn't big enough. Like our master bathroom, we couldn't both stand in there because it wasn't big enough for us both to fit. Our like oven and our dishwasher barely came down. I was standing in the kitchen making dinner and our whole microwave fell out of the wall.
Really?
Yes. It was awful.
Did it shatter?
No, it like
Wow.
it was awful.
Oh my God.
Everything was old and everything was falling apart. Like there was stains all over the walls, all over the bathroom counters. So no
Jeez.
matter how much you scrubbed it and cleaned it, it always looked dirty. I remember my mom came a week after we moved in, and she was being so sweet. She was trying to clean everything for me and just, help us with this transition. And she spent an hour in the bathroom scrubbing, and she was like, I don't know why it still looks dirty. And I was like, it's just the counters. I don't know what to tell you. But so we just moved out of that a month ago. Like I said, I hated this apartment. Like, I hated it. But I was trying to be sweet, supportive wife. We're in Tuscaloosa to support my husband and his dreams. But for some reason, the morning we were moving out of the apartment, I cried because
Really?
I was going to miss our first apartment.
Yeah.
And I remember my husband, he was just looking at me and he was like, I don't know what to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got sentimental with it because that's the first place that you guys lived together as a married couple.
Because I didn't want in the whole, we bought a house and that's great and that's super exciting, but I don't like change, and change scares me and the unknown and everything like that. And so as I'm sitting there like reflecting on all the memories and how we're never going to have our first apartment again, and like I started crying, and I remember it distinctly, and we started cracking up because Caleb was looking at me and he was like, I don't know what to do. I thought you hated it here, and that's why we were moving. It's like, no, I'm very glad that we're moving. I'm just, mourning this life that we had together that we're no longer going to be able to experience.
Well, I think too, like there's a lot of growth that happens in hard situations. So
Absolutely.
like, you don't love your first apartment, but even like your first year of marriage is there, and that's where you grow so much in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we loved our first apartment, and like we were sad when we were leaving, even to the point where like if any little thing went wrong, we're like, yeah, let's ditch this dump. But like when we knew we were gonna leave, like just because we knew we were like sad about it, but we had so many memories there. We grew so much as a couple there.
That's where your marriage started.
Yeah, and so I think that there's an aspect, and like we went through tough things there, and came out stronger, and so like all of that is there, and I think you guys probably had a lot of that in that apartment, even though the apartment itself you didn't love. Like you went through a lot there, and you grew a lot there as a couple, and so
we learned a lot in that apartment. It was a sweet place.
Yeah, so I think that's cool. I think that's one of the aspects of change, and like you're going to a different place that's unfamiliar, and you don't have those memories, and you don't have that experience, but then you just get excited to make new ones and things like that. Earlier, we were talking about me going out to California and us making new friends, but Nico actually moved out to San Diego. So we went to Liberty together, and then he moved to San Diego and didn't know a soul.
Yeah.
and started working for Turning Point there.
He knew our family. He knew the Caddells.
I knew 2 families
Yeah,
out
okay,
there. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
So he knew a soul, not many souls.
But not really. Like,
Well, yeah, and I can talk a little bit more about that because I moved at a very difficult time, which we all remember.
COVID.
It's called COVID.
Awful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
everyone
the
was
number
quarantined.
one.
There were beaches. I couldn't go to the beach. I was like, why am I moving to San Diego if I can't go to the beach?
yeah.
Yeah, the cop cars were like rolling on the beach, patrolling people to get off
crazy,
the beach.
crazy time. But yeah, so I did go to Liberty University. I lived in Lynchburg, Virginia for about 5 years because after I graduated with my undergrad, I immediately started my master's program online, but I stuck around there and lived with my roommates. COVID was kind of starting around that time, and I was planning on moving to Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. Some of my roommates were moving there to work, and I was going to start my own business. I was going to go into real estate, photography, and videography. But I had some opportunities with Passages. You guys were doing some trips in Lynchburg and needed a photographer, a second shooter, and I helped out. And David and I had some connections where we talked about like the future possibilities for Passages, and it was super exciting. And all of a sudden I get a call from the creative director at Turning Point, Paul Joyner, who's an amazing person, huge friend of mine. And he basically offered me a position to work at Turning Point Ministries with Dr. David Jeremiah, which is kind of the umbrella organization over Passages TV. And so 3.5 years ago, I moved out to San Diego. Like 2 weeks before I moved to Raleigh, my mattress was already down in Raleigh in the apartment that I was going to live in. And all of a sudden, I take this job across the entire country. And obviously, San Diego is amazing. If I rewind a little bit, 3 years before that, I worked an internship with a family out there that owns a real estate company as their marketing and advertising intern.
That's where I met you too, because I was friends with their daughter.
There you go. Yeah, mutual friends. But I worked there for like 2 months in the summer, and I absolutely fell in love with San Diego. I mean, how can you not? If anyone's ever been there, it's the most beautiful place on the planet. Well, maybe not on the planet, but it's beautiful.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. I fell in love, and I was like, one day I want to live in San Diego, but I never even imagined that I would make it,
close to
reality. Yeah. Like I was planning on moving to North Carolina out of all things. So
I do have one question.
Yes.
Did you go back and get your mattress?
I didn't actually. I left it there. Yeah, and my roommates just used it for when they had guests. I was like, I'm moving in 2 weeks. I literally moved to San Diego the weekend before I started working. I like flew across the country, moved to San Diego, had my car shipped.
And you lived in a
I lived in a trailer.
Home. Yeah.
Yep.
In
So
front
this
of that
family that I
family's-
worked an internship with had a 30-foot trailer just parked in their driveway that I knew about. And I moved the weekend before I started working. I didn't know where to live. I didn't have a roof over my head. I was like, I need somewhere to crash. And I reached out to this family, one of the only families I knew out there. And they were like, hey, we have this trailer. It's available if you want to, live in there.
So you lived in their
so I
front
did.
yard,
I
in the
lived
trailer.
in their driveway in a 30-foot trailer with basically all my belongings for 6 months through the winter. And
in COVID.
during COVID. Yeah, and I didn't know anyone else. I was starting this brand new job in this brand new city. And talk about change. That was kind of a whirlwind of just different, like
moving anywhere during COVID.
And so you had like, obviously you had a million things going on and a lot, but like when you were in the driveway, in the trailer by yourself, and you're just thinking of like, dude, what is my life right now?
I had
like,
some rough nights. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I just picked up my whole life and moved out here, and now I'm laying in a trailer and I don't know anyone, and what is going on in the world? Everyone's wearing masks, and like I can't see or talk to anyone. Stores are closed. The beach is closed. Like, what is going on?
Did you have a kitchen in the trailer?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a small kitchen. I had a nice lazy boy in there and a TV. There was like the shelf above the bed, and I would hit my head on it almost every night. The shower was tiny. I'm a pretty tall dude, like 6'3", and the shower head would like come up to my chest. And I only had hot water for like a minute every morning, and then it would go freezing. And I lived in that trailer through the winter, and the heater didn't work, and it would get frigid. Like San Diego is great, perfect weather year round, but
at night it gets cold.
in East County at night, the
when the
temperature
wind
drops
can
quite a
go
bit.
down.
And when you're in a trailer in a driveway, you feel it.
Yeah.
So there were definitely some
layers
nights
did
where
you
I
have
was
on?
just like, oh God, please help me through this. But I just trusted him like every step of the way. And I mean, fast forward to now, I've been in San Diego for 3.5 years. We made it through COVID, God bless.
Your parents just moved there?
Yeah, so my parents just moved to San Diego this year. They were already living in California, but about 5 hours north of San Diego. But they just moved down to San Diego this past year. I was fortunate enough to buy a condo in San Diego about 3 years ago when the market was excellent. But I just recently now moved to a different area of San Diego now that my family is down there, and I'm renting out my condo. So, I mean, there were definitely some challenging, difficult times in the beginning, but now I have like a community, a church family. My family's down there. I have amazing friends. I love what I get to do at Turning Point as well. And just like working in video production, working with really amazing people and spreading the gospel, furthering the kingdom. So I've been fortunate, and, I'm very grateful for the opportunity Turning Point has given me. And I'm, stoked to be working with pastors too. But yeah, I mean, you talked about how you have to like die to yourself and like how you've matured so much in just this, the past 6 months where your wife's been pregnant and you're expecting a child. Like can look back at my life too and see how much I've matured just through those changes and having to step up and grow up and, put your complaints to the side, like step outside a little bit and, have a bigger perspective of the world and see how good you really have it and just be grateful and like trust him. And that was like huge. And
those 6 months in the trailer, like when you have situations like that, that's where so much growth happens. You said you relied a lot on your faith.
Yeah.
That just like builds you up so much more to where like the next thing you go through, you're like, okay, I made it through that.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be fine. I know that I can weather this.
Yeah. And it'd be a huge miss if I didn't talk about my dog.
Of course.
He's a weird dog dad.
I'm not a weird dog dad. I'm a normal dog dad.
Normal dog dad.
But I'm an only child, and growing up, I never had any pets. My parents didn't want to have pets, but I always wanted a dog. I never asked for a brother or sister. I always just asked for a dog, and I never got one growing up. But my parents always promised me, like, hey, as soon as you like grow up and get your own place and you're living on your own, we'll get you whatever dog you want. And so fast forward to when I'm living in San Diego and I buy my condo, the first thing I say is, where's my dog?
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, they actually fulfilled that promise and got me the dog I wanted.
I didn't know that, yeah.
And so his name is Champ. I think he's 2 years old now. He's an Aussie Doodle, the cutest little fur ball, weighing in at 70 pounds. But fun fact about that is I got him when I was still technically living in the trailer. So for like 2 weeks, I had this 8-week-old puppy with me in the trailer. He was not potty trained, tell you what.
Speaking of him not being potty trained, I have to tell you guys an embarrassing story about Nico. When you first got Champ, he was walking out of Home Depot, and my mom was walking in Home Depot, and he was holding Champ right in front of him like this, like he had been a bad dog, and he had gone to the bathroom all over Home Depot, and my mom ran right into him. It was awesome. True. That's my favorite story about Nico.
Yeah. I mean, he just leaked all over Home Depot, and I was just brand new dog dad, like, I got to get this thing out of here. I was like running out of Home Depot, and I run into your mom, and she's like, Nico? I'm like, oh gosh, don't look at me. Yeah. That's awesome. No, it was funny, but he's great. And lived in the trailer with me for 2 weeks, and
before you moved
before I moved into my condo. And so it was, I mean,
that's awful.
I don't know why I did that to myself, but I was already going through enough change. I was like, why not throw a dog into the mix?
Sometimes you're just like, when it rains it pours.
Exactly. Or you make it pour, right?
Yeah, might as well.
That was your decision. It didn't pour on you. You made it.
What's one more thing?
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like that's how I'm gonna be with a dog. Like, I don't want a dog now, but like, it's like once you have like 3 kids, it's like, all right, what's one?
I thought you said you were getting a dog before you had a kid.
We did say that.
You could still make that happen.
You've got what, 4 more months?
No
6 more
shot.
months?
Yeah, no, we wanted a dog, and we still do eventually, but
would you be super mad at me if I just surprised you with a dog next week?
No, because I just wouldn't keep it. I'm not like I'd find a good home for it.
We'll cut that out.
I'd find a good
No, I'm
home
just kidding.
for it. I love dogs, but that would not be in its best interest.
That would
That's
make
true.
it poor for
time.
you.
No, that's true.
Yes, and that would make me poor.
True.
Yeah, so I love dogs. I want a dog. Some people who hear my opinions might think I don't, but I love dogs. I just think timing is important.
Yes.
But what's going to inevitably end up happening is I'm going to get a dog. Like, I'm going to have 3 kids. I'm going to be like, what's one more thing running around, pooping and peeing? Like, just
Sure.
throw it in the mix, you know?
Yep.
That's what,
Just
that's,
make sure you have a yard at least.
yeah, yes. So, I know, yeah. I don't want to be in, like, the townhome or apartment life with a dog
It's tough.
and a little baby.
Or the trailer life.
Yeah, or the
Yeah.
trailer life. Yeah, so... but yeah, we were like, oh, maybe we'll go like be married 2 years and we'll get a dog. And then like 2 or 3 years later, then we'll have kids. And we got baby fever a little bit quicker than that, as you can tell. But yeah, so we're excited to start a family, and yeah, a dog will come at some point, but not soon.
Well, as we can all see, we're all in different seasons of life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun in it. Life is entertaining at times and interesting, but I mean, if there's any lesson to take away from this podcast specifically, it's how much we have to trust in the Lord to guide our steps, because we feel like we can see a football length in front of us, but we really only can see like 10 feet in front of us.
Right.
And he's
in
got us
control.
in his hands, and we have to have faith, because
Faith is huge, because you're never going to be able to make a decision and a major decision in life like this with 100% of the questions answered. Never. Like, we're never, like, we can't move across the country, like, with our question of, like, are we going to have friends answered? Like, we can't make friends before we go and do it. You know, we don't know. There's so many things that can't be answered until you take that step of faith. And so, like, I think, with these types of situations, figure out what you can, be diligent, plan what you can, but don't rely on all of it, because faith has to you know,
Play a part.
exactly.
And
Because
sometimes you might get
everything.
upset when God changes your plans. I know I was upset when God changed our plans for law school, but his plans work out even better. And sometimes just knowing that as you're going into it, okay, I have a set plan, but it's okay if this changes, because ultimately God is in control, and I'm going to listen to what he has to say.
Yeah.
and it's so difficult to have that perspective at times.
It's painful
And sometimes you won't see like the fruits of your labor, or see how much that God's plan benefited you until maybe months, even years down the road, and you can look back and see like, wow, I couldn't see it any other way, or I can't believe like that happened and we made it through that, or how much we've grown because of that.
Yeah. And a part of our mindset is like, in Lynchburg, we have a good situation. Like, we have a townhome that we love. We have friends. We have a church. Like, we have jobs. Like, it's a good situation.
It looks picture perfect almost.
Yeah, it does. But, you know, I heard this somewhere. It's like sometimes, like, you know, good can be the greatest enemy of great. Because, or even like a good situation is sometimes worse or an okay situation is sometimes worse than a bad situation, because a bad situation, you got to get out of, you got to move on and potentially into a great situation. If it's an okay or good situation, you're like, why do I need to change? Why do I need to get better? And so then we end up just sitting in that place of good, okay, everything's all right. And we never are then able to like, or never take the step because we don't think we need to. But yeah, we're like, okay, we know where we need to be. There's a lot of risk involved, but we know that has a place where, like, if we put our faith in God, in this move, like, God can take us to somewhere to great. But we think right now it's comfortable, it's easy, it's good. But and also it's like a chance to test our faith, to see God work. Like, you know, we've been through our fair share of things, but we've also been very blessed, and things have God's dropped things in our lap a lot of times. And so it's like, okay, like we want to step out in faith with this.
Yeah. Well, and another thing is God works when you do. So you have to take those steps of faith, and then God will continue working with you and working for you. But if you stay complacent in where you are, you're not going to listen to him telling you and guiding you where to move forward. So a lot of people sit there and they're like, I'm just going to wait here until, you know, basically God slaps me in the face with what I'm going to do. And that's not how it works. You have to take those proactive steps in faith and in prayer, and then God is going to meet you where you are. But you have to be proactive.
Right. Yeah, that's good. And you have to be obedient too. A lot of times we ignore, what we feel like he's calling us to just because we don't want that change.
Or it's scary.
Yeah.
And you're overwhelmed.
But really,
with
it's just having the faith and being obedient to take that step forward. So,
Yeah, that's just a little bit kind of about us, where we're at right now, and some of the things that we've been going through. I think that we've all learned a lot, and I've gotten to know, both of you. As you've gone through that, it's cool to see you guys like kind of come out on the other side of that. And as a lot of us are going through change right now, it's cool to be able to have people to talk to about that who know where you're at and kind of what you're feeling as you're going through that. And so we hope that for those of you listening that, you can, maybe you're going through something similar, maybe you can gain a little bit of insight and know that it's going to be all right. Just to have faith in God and his plan for you. And it's not always going to be easy. You're going to go through some rough patches, and you might be going through some of those rough patches right now, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to get through it. And I think ultimately you'll see yourself grow as a person and grow in your faith because of it. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more, you can check us out at passages.tv. Check out our Instagram or our YouTube if you want more content like this. We're going to be coming out with these as often as possible. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.